Call of Duty handles the subject of war. So yeah, that's kind of a obvious statement, but when we look at war stories, they tend to be more about people, right? They tend to be more about individuals who have egos, souls, all this complexity mixed up within them. There was a game in 2007, way back in 2007. It actually came out when I was in high school, so yeah, that was a long time ago. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. But it was a hit, I remember. Everybody was playing it. Not only because of its multiplayer, but because of its campaign. Its campaign was full of these big set pieces that just blew your mind. It was before anything else. It was before Call of Duty became what it is today. This was the game that kind of started it on that path. Oh, are you okay? Are you okay, Mike? So it was the game that kind of started it on that path upwards to, cultural domination, or whatever you want to call it. I wanted to look at Modern Warfare because recently it was remastered. So it was basically made into or at least visually speaking, it was made into a modern shooter. It still had, its core gameplay intact, just it was made prettier. But yeah, I wanted to take Modern Warfare and dig deep for the story, for the substance beneath all these set pieces and the hardware that is involved in a Call of Duty game. So while it is rife with these great moments, it is also teeming with these characters behind the gun that tell such a nuanced story on the battlefield. So I'm Ben, your story guy, and this is Modern Warfare.
We're going deep and we're going hard.
Just a quick warning, there will be spoilers ahead, though again, as I've mentioned, this game is 13 years old, so if you haven't played it at this point. So let me set it up. The year's 2011. Civil war has begun in Russia. Those loyal to the current government are called loyalists.
Loyalists, huh? Are those the good Russians or the bad Russians?
Well, they won't shoot us on sight, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, well, that's good enough for me, sir.
And those who are fighting against the government are called ultra-nationalists. And that, my friends, is where we meet the leader, Imran Zakhaev. Imran Zakhaev, of course, is the leader of the ultranationalist cause. And right next to Russia in the Middle East, a revolution has taken hold. A man named Khaled al-Assad. Is leading a rebellion against the leaders of his country. It's not named the country that it's set in, but it's just clearly the Middle East. So, that is the state of the world that you enter in as John Soap McTavish.
It's the FNG, sir. Go easy on him, sir. It's his first day in the regiment.
The player begins as Sergeant John Soap McTavish, a Scottish SAS recruit. Soap is introduced to his squad, Captain John Price, and his lieutenant, Gaz, and proceeds to run a training course that prepares him for the regiment's next mission. So Soap's the new guy, and it's abundantly clear that this mission is all about alienating Soap, just by making him feel like he hasn't earned his spot in this squad, this group, just yet. Just a few little details that give us that are, if you look at where you see all the times, you can actually see that everybody else already has entered a time. When we think of Soap, we think of clean, washing, making new, right? He is the new, clean, unwashed new guy. It's like when you start a new job and you have to know and get along with all the right people. He hasn't gotten the chance to do that yet, so he's feeling very much that new label of FNG. For those of you who don't know, FNG stands for new guy.
Rules of engagement, sir. Crew expendable.
Soap is immediately thrown into his first mission, boarding an ultra-nationalist freighter in the Bering Strait to secure suspected nuclear cargo. After subduing the crew, the squad locate the package but cannot transport it due to MiG-29s or fast movers approaching. Grabbing the manifest of the plutonium shipment, the squad narrowly escapes during the MiG-29 attacks on the ship. Despite the team's inability to secure the cargo, the manifest Soap retrieved indicates that the plutonium was being delivered to none other than Khaled al-Assad, the Middle Eastern usurper, establishing the first connection between al-Assad and the ultranationalist cause in Russia. FNG and Crew Expendable, the first two levels, in my mind they are meant to be played together. All tells the story of Soap's introduction to his team and his place within it. You know, it sets that element of his character up. Now, the way I like to describe Crew Expendable is that it's a figurative and literal baptism for Soap. Literal because they're on a cargo ship in the middle of the ocean, and it's raining nonetheless, so like you are getting as much water thrown at you as a human being can possibly do on Earth, right? The figurative baptism comes in the form, or basically what the player experiences and sees throughout the level. If you go through the level, you're essentially following this squad as they do their thing. You're essentially observing them, because you're usually in the back trailing them, and they're the ones busting open doors and doing stuff, right?
I like to keep this for close encounters.
Too right, mate.
On my mark, go. Check those corners.
And that kind of further isolates Soap, right? Because it makes him feel even more out of place, and they're on a mission. But we do see a glimmer of something different towards the end of the level. You could say it's even an illustration of the larger story at hand here of the SAS. Captain Price entrusts Soap with the manifest later on in the level, so that shows that, I mean, it could just be him saying, here, you can handle, carrying a clipboard, can't you? But at the end, Captain Price saves Soap and prevents him from plunging into the depths of the ocean. That kind of plays with the name of the level a little bit. So obviously the name refers to the parameters of the cargo ship mission, but I think it was also kind of an ironic statement about how the SAS operates, how Price leads his squad. It became ironic because at the end, what happened? Price didn't let Soap die. In the end, Soap wasn't as expendable as he may have felt during the level, right? It's a really bold statement about, okay, these are who these characters are. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, al-Assad completes his revolution by executing his country's president, Yasser al-Fulani, on national television. Imran Zakayev is present at the execution. So the coup serves as a more cinematic experience because the player has limited mobility. All you can do is really, move the president's head around. And you're driving in a car through the city. Basically, I mean, if you think about the character is President al-Fulani. This is his country. Literally witnessing it being destroyed and taken over. Like the worst thing a leader could possibly imagine, I'm sure. And so this is a traumatic moment for this character, and it ends up being the most traumatizing of moments, right? He gets shot. But he sees a lot of revealing things, or the player does in this level. One of the things that obviously stands out is the setting. Whereas in the last level, which was Crew Expendable, you were in the middle of the ocean. Now you're in the Middle East, the arid desert landscape. But one of the most interesting things story-wise that the player can see, this exchange between Al-Assad and Zakhaev. What happens is Zakhaev offers Al-Assad his Desert Eagle in order to kill Al-Fulani. Before he, gives him the handle, he actually points the gun at him first. Such a brilliant example of revealing character information through one little gesture. So that tells me a few things. It tells me that Zakhaev and Al-Assad may not have a lot of trust in between the two of them, despite them obviously kind of working together. I mean, the son, the guy in that just awful blue jumpsuit with the Uzi in the front seat, that's Zakhaev's son, delivering you to the execution. So obviously the Zakhaevs are pretty important in this little operation going on. Also, it kind of illustrates the power that Zakhaev has over Al-Assad. Zakhaev being like, you're barely just a means to an end to me.